Good morning, everyone. We are live. This is your average Jen along with Rody J, and I'm going to be turning things over to Rody J today. So I'll let him give a little introduction, and then when we get going with what we're going to do, I'm going to leave the screen and let him have center stage. Well, somewhat center stage for a while. So go ahead, Rody J.
Good morning, everybody. Back in January, Average Jen and I had a conversation about my marriage and about being married to a narcissistic person. And I felt that now would be a really good time to open up more about my marriage and some of the things that happened and what I've learned through those 20 years that I invested in a relationship with a person that I should have never invested in. I'll be honest, I was, to say the least, a very, I don't even know how to put it. Let's see. I was not very secure in who I was. I never had the confidence in myself to go after the things that I thought I could do in life. So ultimately, this woman was the first woman to show me any sort of attention. And naturally, I gravitated towards that because some attention apparently was better than no attention. It took me 20 years to figure out that no attention would have been much better than the attention that I received from this woman. So let's get into the episode, Jen.
All right, sounds good. Let me bring this up here. Oh, I don't think I will. Wait, I should be able to remove myself still because this is on a separate audio. All right, and let's start from the beginning. That might be helpful.
So I went. Yes.
There we go.
And here we go.
There we go.
Well, hello there, and welcome to Accountability Nation as presented by I'm Only Human, the podcast that attempts to explain how to coexist with other humans. Self accountability is something that will change our world. This podcast strain is Jay's project. We may stay focused on the original topic, or we may drift way off course. Either way, it will be an adventure. Before we begin, we would like to state that we are not experts, and we don't claim to be. We will, however, be talking about a lot of heated topics and some mellow things. It all leads back to taking accountability for your own actions, whether good or bad. Through recovery, healing is possible. We believe that changed minds and attitudes can change our world. Okay, so you're going to share your experience, strength, and hope today with our listeners. And we were going to talk about narcissism. And I looked up something. I'm going to read some stuff to you from the Mayo Clinic. And then just tell me about your experience with your narcissistic past, I guess you could not narcissistic past, but your narcissistic, relationship.
Narcissistic past times two.
Times two. Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. So anyway, according to the Mayo Clinic, here are some symptoms of narcissistic personality disorder, and how severe they are can vary. So one is having an unreasonably high sense of self-importance and require constant, excessive admiration. They feel they deserve privileges and special treatment, expect to be recognized as superior even without achievements, make achievements and talents seem bigger than they really are. They're preoccupied with fantasies about success, power, brilliance, beauty, or the perfect mate. They believe they are superior to others and can only spend time with or be understood by equally special people. They can be critical of and look down on people they feel are not important. They expect special favors and expect other people to do what they want without questioning them. They take advantage of others to get what they want. They have an inability or unwillingness to recognize the needs and feelings of others. They can be envious of others and believe others envy them. They behave in an arrogant way, brag a lot, and come across as conceited. They insist on having the best of everything, for instance, the best car or office. And then it says at the same time, people with narcissistic personality disorder have trouble handling anything they view as criticism. They can become impatient or angry when they don't receive special recognition or treatment, have major problems interacting with others, and easily feel slighted. They react with rage or contempt and try to belittle other people to make themselves appear superior. They have difficulty managing their emotions and behavior. They experience major problems dealing with stress and adapting to change, withdraw from or avoid situations in which they might fail. They feel depressed and moody because they fall short of protection. And the last one is have secret feelings of insecurity, shame, humiliation, and fear of being exposed as a failure. How are you feeling when you hear that list?
Well, it's 100% spot on because I've got over 20 years experience living with a narcissist and then leaving a narcissist for what I find out later to be another narcissist. So I
What are the
can
odds?
give you, well, let's just be honest. I was an easy target. Like when it came down to it, my first relationship, I was not in a good place in life and I was an easy target, and she took advantage of that, and she convinced me throughout time that nobody else would want me. There was no better option for me, and those are some of the horror stories, things that have happened throughout my time with a narcissist, and then only to leave and fall back right into the same situation because it was almost like I was desperate to get out of where I was, that I just finally found somebody that I thought was willing to help me have a better life. Only felt that from the minute I basically left, can you pay for this? Hey, can you pay for that? If we're going to be in this thing, can you pay for this? And the whole time she was doing the one thing I asked her not to do. So it's just, as things devolve and as the mask falls off, as they like to say, and you start to see the narcissist for what they really are, and then you start standing up to the narcissist, and the fights get nastier, the comments get nastier, the social media blasts get nastier, and you just look at it and it's just like, what the hell did I do to deserve this? But then you realize you shattered their worldview. And when you shatter a narcissist's view of themselves, and they have to look in the mirror and say, what happened that this happened? And then they have to look at themselves. They try hard not to, but it basically shatters that view, and it takes them a rebuild from that shatter, and they get meaner and nastier. And of course, they try even harder with the people that walked out on them. Like, I will say that my ex has been putting full court press on lately, trying to get me to come back. And it's just like, those days are gone. And I've made that abundantly clear. But to a narcissist, they'll continue to try till they're ready to discard you. And that's the other discard, a narcissist, and they're not ready. Yeah, I was talking about being discarded by a narcissist versus um, them getting discarded. And them getting discarded is one of the hardest things on them, because then they're also, again, forced to look in the mirror and say, hey, I definitely had something to do with this. And they'll minimize, and then they'll blast out on social media how they're such a victim for this, and how dare this person do this to me. And then they get their flying monkeys together, and then the flying monkeys start attacking the person that left, and they pick fights with you at random times when they figure out that you're out for the night, or they try to send you a message for something and then you don't respond for days, and then they get upset about that and they blast it out on social media. It's the campaign against you is incredibly awful. And quite honestly, the way I handled it is I didn't buy into any of it. I paid attention to what was being said, but I never responded to any of it. Because when it comes down to it, if somebody believes them over me, then they just exited my life. And that's one less thing I have to worry about as far as friendships, because obviously it wasn't a real friendship. If you believe these horrible things that are being said about me, then obviously you don't know who I am and you don't need to be in my life. So that's the way I look at it. And that's how I handled it. Because people would tell me things that were going on because I had her blocked, or she didn't have my cell phone number for a while and she had no way to get a hold of me. So she threatened some sort of nonsense, like having the police come and basically force me to give information. And then she's like, figured out how to get back in my life, but I had her completely cut off for a while. And to have her sneak back in the door was difficult. And for some reason, I can't seem to cut that cord again.
So do you just feel a sense of fear when you have to deal with this person?
That's the thing, is like, I there's always going to be a part of me that loves that person, because we were married and we did have good times together. Not to say that it was 100% all bad. There were a lot of times that were fun. You'll get that because they can be fun people, and they can, as long as they're having fun, allow you to have fun. Um, so, I mean, it wasn't like it was all bad, but the overwhelming majority of things were just disgusting, nasty fights, and just the worst things that could possibly be said to a human have been said to me. Um, so when people throw hate at me online, I just look at it like amateur hour, because the things that the person that quote unquote says that they loved me would say tells me otherwise.
I was just wondering if you ever thought like maybe this person was just so insecure in what she was thinking and feeling that she did everything she knew to do just to make herself feel loved, but she never communicated to you what she needed. Instead, she just wanted to control you.
I was basically there, and it was stated to a third party that the thing that was liked the most about me, no matter what she did, I would stay. And that was her thought. And she said those words to another human. And it's just like, wow, that's impressive. I was nothing more than an ATM. And that's really what it came down to. And that's what happened in the second one as well. I was really nothing more than an ATM. Yeah, I had fun times, whatever, but not worth what happened because of it.
How was it before those tendencies came out? Like, were you guys good friends?
Yeah, actually, that was the thing. Um, we were friends previous to dating, and then it was probably 6 to 8 months in, because for the first 6 to 8 months, she really just mirrored what I wanted in a person. Basically, she was mirroring my personality, so it was very comfortable to be with her.
because she acted a lot like I did and spoke the way I spoke and those sort of things. So it was about 6 months in when some things started first happening, and I walked through like the red sea of red flags, because at that point I was desperate to be in a relationship and I had no other prospects except for this crazy chick. And I'm like, this is probably better than not. And the reality is, not would have been better than that.
So you kind of stayed because you felt that you wouldn't be loved by anyone else? And she made you
She
feel that way, or this was like your very first relationship and you didn't know how a relationship was supposed to be?
Well, there was that, but also the fact that she had just worn me down and beat me down and drained my positive energy and started to fundamentally destroy who I was as a person, just completely destroying my personality. And I turned into a person that I'm to this day not proud of. I did some terrible things and I'm not proud of those things. Uh, but the reality is, I allowed her to fundamentally destroy who I was. And she got pleasure out of that. She got pleasure out of cutting me off from friends and cutting me off from family and turning family against me, and sometimes, or just keeping me away from like coming home. Or when I did come home with her, how fearful I was and how my anxiety was always at an all-time high, because I never knew what she was going to do or say. And it was just, it sucked.
What were you afraid she might do or say, like in presence of family or friends?
Something to embarrass me or start complaining at one of you because she didn't get the outcome that she wanted, or she's not getting her attention. And she always made herself the center of attention, and she just did really dumb things. And it was so frustrating, because it's just like, you do these dumb things and then I say something and then it turns into this massive fight. And then of course it's projection, it's deflection. So I become reactive, and now we're fighting about things that I quote unquote did. And it's just like, okay, so you can't win an argument with a narcissist. It's just never going to happen. They fight dirtier. They have no issue lying. They have no issue making things up. And the meaner and nastier you get, the more they enjoy it, because they just get that much meaner and nastier. And I mean, I can remember sometimes fights going on for days at a time. Like, we were fighting for sometimes a week. And then she would go a couple of weeks without even speaking to me, because she felt that I won the argument and she couldn't handle that. So she just wouldn't speak to me at all. And it's like, all right, I really actually kind of enjoyed those weeks.
Makes sense. Um, you're not familiar with codependence, like the patterns and anything like that, are you?
I'm pretty sure that I was codependent at the time in those relationships, because I didn't really have anything else. So I went along with a lot of things that I was not comfortable with, for the betterment of the relationship. So I thought,
Did the relationship become violent at all?
yes, it absolutely did. There was a time that we were in Las Vegas on vacation, and I was resting my eyes for a couple of minutes. They were dry, I've been drinking, so my eyes were tired. So I shut my eyes for a few minutes, and apparently that was not acceptable. And she slapped me in the face because I was trying to take a nap, and this whole bus full of people were ready to come and get her. And I didn't say a word. I just sat there, and everybody on the bus felt so sorry for me because for no reason other than she felt I should be awake, she slapped me in the face. And the rest of that bus ride, I just sat there in silence, just enjoying the moment because she had to atone for her behavior. And she wanted me to go off the bus. And I'm like, the only thing I said is, like, I didn't do anything. And so she got stuck on that bus. So, of course, when we got back to the room later that night, it was a big argument about how I wouldn't get off the bus and how I wouldn't defend her. And it's just like, why would I defend you when you slap me in the face for just trying to rest my eyes for a couple of minutes? It's just like, it doesn't make sense. But those are some of the things that happen. And it's just like, she would push me and push me and push me because she knew I had a temper, and she would get me to snap. There was a time or two I pushed her, I'm sure, but overall I never hit her. Like, that was not a thing for me, and that's still not a thing for me. I don't hit women. I just don't. And she knew that, so she always tried to get me to do something to her, and I just never got there. Like, I'd punch the wall. There was one time I put my fist through a door, enraged from the fight we were having.
What was her
And
reaction when you did those things?
she was enjoying it, to be honest with you. I could tell she was enjoying it. And of course, she would start crying and freak out and get everybody in the house to come defend her. And it's just like, it was unbelievable what she was able to do and how many people she had under her control. And then to find out later some of the backstory, some of the things that were going on behind my back. And it's just like, that's super. And of course, it comes back to the idea that no matter what she does, she thinks I'm going to stay. And I proved her right for almost 20 years. And then one day I wasn't there anymore. And when I left that day, I sent her a text message because 3 times previously I had tried to leave her, and I tried to do it the right way, have a conversation with her that didn't end well. And it ended with me still being there. So this time I had to pack stuff in my vehicle. And that was a whole other piece of control right there. She wouldn't allow me to have my driver's license for a number of years. And she was pissed the day that I got it because I basically forced my way into doing it that day because the other person that was living in our home at the time was going to get his license back. So I'm just like, well, there's an appointment. He's got one. I got one too. And then I got my driver's license. And then lo and behold, I had a buddy who sold me a car. And about 5 months after I bought that car, I packed it one day and never went back.
And then did she flip out after that? Like, how did she
Oh,
take
yeah.
it?
She sent me the nastiest text messages, and then she would send me rather inappropriate text messages trying to woo me back, read between the lines. And it would go back and forth. And it's just like, I don't want to be there. And that was the whole thing. And then she turned my nephew against me and my niece against me. And for a number of years, my nephew wouldn't even talk to me. And that was pretty harsh. And luckily, we've been able to mend our relationship. And he actually did come stay with me for a month when he was moving back from a different state to here. I let him come stay here and basically took care of a lot of stuff for him and helped him get back on his feet before he was moving the month after to another part of Minnesota. And she really liked it much, but it was out of her control at that point.
Is she still
Which
trying to sabotage you?
no, she's given up on that fight. She knows that he's an adult now and he's going to make his decisions. She
I,
tried everything she could though.
in our last episode, when you were talking about music, you had talked about a song and you said you had sent her this song and you were going to tell me how she reacted to it, but we never got to that conversation. So, what was the song again and how did she react?
If I remember correctly, this song was Crying Time by the Gracious Few, and she did not take it well. And there's a reason for it, because that song is all about leaving someone. And that's what it came down to. And she basically had to relive it. And that's hard for a narcissist to do in the first place. They don't like to deal with real world problems. They just want to let everybody think they're the victim and they cry foul all the time. So she had to spend a little bit of time reliving that.
In closing, we would like to say that the opinions expressed here were strictly of our own making or by some guests. Take what you like and leave the rest. You may come to realize that you may not like us or what we want to share, but let's talk to each other, reason things out, but let there be no gossip or criticism of one another. Instead, let the fellowship of ethical human behavior and the serenity from positive human interaction help you grow and chill out one experience at a time. We would like to thank our higher powers for guiding us through this podcast. We hope to spread the message of love, hope, and understanding by touching one life at a time. If you like this podcast, please like and share it. Comments also help other struggling people find it. We are now listener supported, and if you would like to contribute, please feel free. There is no obligation. If you would like to share feedback, you can email Jen at averagehumanbeing1875@gmail.com or visit Jay on Twitter at earbudsmusic. There is also a link you can click if you would like to send a voice message and add to the content of the show.
Okay, the floor is all yours.
Yeah, it's real interesting to listen back. I did listen a little bit last night just to brush up and to fully listen again this morning and hear some of the things I said and just opening that can of worms again. I was still in high school when I met her. I was in my senior year. I didn't date throughout high school. I didn't date when I was still in Wisconsin. I mean, I had a phone relationship with a girl and then another phone relationship with another girl, and I would see them randomly. But outside of that, I had never had a serious relationship. So the fact that this woman was willing to show me attention really was the big draw. And she knew what she was going to get when she finally hooked me, and she was right for 20 years. That was a hard 20 years to live. And what I've learned in those 20 years is what I won't accept in a partner. And I needed that because I repeated the same mistake directly after living 20 years of the biggest mistake of my life, because I didn't learn anything. I took a rebound relationship way too far, and that's ultimately what happened with 2.0. 2.0 was better at hiding it than 1.0 was, that's for sure. But when 2.0's mask started to fall off, 2.0 was nastier than 1.0 was. And that's a real telling story. And to be honest with you, I haven't spoken to 2.0 in over 3 years at this point, and I like it that way. I have nothing against her and hope she does well in her life. She's just not part of my orbit anymore. She earned that. Treat me the way you treat me and find out what happens. I've had to shatter my whole worldview, and I did that willingly because the things I was doing in my life were not working. At one point, obviously, I was over 500 pounds, and I know that you remember coming up right after my death scare. I mean, dying for 7 minutes really messed up my life a lot. And I don't ever want to go through any of that kind of stuff again. And some of those things were direct effect of the fact that I had given up on life because of the person that I was with. I never want to give up on life again. And that's a hard pill to swallow. And when you do finally swallow that pill and you've given up, you just sit there and figure out ways that you can slowly kill yourself. And for me, food was it. I was over 500 pounds. I was 538 pounds, and I was crushing myself under my own body weight. I sat around, watched TV all day and night. I didn't work. I just sat there and ate. And I collected unemployment and that sort of stuff.
So was she the breadwinner during that time, and therefore she had more control over you because she was the one paying all the bills?
For about a year after my medical incident, yes, that was the only time in our relationship that I can say that she was the breadwinner. And she hated it. And she threw it in my face every day that she was the one out there working hard and that I'm not doing anything. And she made a big deal about the day I passed away on the kitchen floor and how she had to come home and see the priest there and the paramedics standing over me. And she thought she was going to lose me forever. And you hear her tell the story and you think that she was the one that died. Honestly, it was the craziest thing. And everything that I know about that day is stuff that I learned either through reading the ambulance report or the medical records, or stuff that was told to me secondhand, because that day changed my life forever. My brain is scrambled. My short-term memory's damaged. I don't really hold the concept of time anymore. So I look at the clock. 10 seconds later, I'm looking at the clock again because I have no idea what time it is. It is the strangest thing to me. And just in general, like, my brain doesn't work the same as it used to. So learning how to live with a traumatic brain injury and learning how to live with post-traumatic stress disorder, not only from the relationship, but from the trauma that I suffered in 2011 when I passed away for that short period of time, and from another couple of incidents I had when I was working as a mass transit worker in the Twin Cities. I have PTSD from a few of those things. So generally, it's learning how to navigate through life with those issues as well, and understanding what I won't accept out of a partner any longer. If you degrade me, you're out. If you use me for any of my resources, you're out. If you cheat on me, you're out. Like, these are things I will not accept. I will not spend weeks arguing with a person only to have a couple of good days to go back to arguing. If you do that kind of stuff, you're out. My current relationship, none of that stuff happens. I'm very happy with my current relationship. She's a good woman. We have goals. And that's a big difference that I never had with either of the previous two. Is there was never goals that we strove towards at any point in our relationship. We were always just playing it by ear, and it was always mass chaos. There was always some sort of nonsense going on that needed to be addressed, and she had to be the person to address it. So getting rid of all that extra noise has been super helpful as well. It's allowed me to be able to do the one thing she never wanted me to do, which was focus on myself, build myself into a stronger person, because as a stronger person, I'm not controllable. She knew that. She was smart enough to at least know that. So her keeping me off balance and not allowing me to use the medications that I needed, the medication, I should say, not several. That's a whole nother story for a different day. But her being able to keep me off guard and never really able to focus on what I needed to focus was a tool she used against me. For 20 years, half the time I never really knew what was going on other than this drama that she created for whatever reason. And I think a lot of it was for her own self-enjoyment. She just loved that stuff. And to me, that stuff is disgusting. Getting people to fight for no reason or the dumbest reasons. Like one time we were at a car show. It was called Mopar Days down in Farmington, Minnesota. And she threw the biggest fight, picked the biggest fight with me over the fact that I had taken the screen protector off my cell phone. The thing was falling off and it's like, whatever, it's not doing anything. So I took it off. Apparently this was crime against humanity #1 to her. And this beautiful day that we had checking out cool cars and whatever else, she just destroys over a $10 piece of plastic that covers the phone. Like, are you kidding me? Who does that? Well, apparently her, because she did it. But like, these are some of the things that would happen for no reason. Just pick a fight on a beautiful day over some dumb shit. I mean, and she would do it in Vegas. There was one time we actually went to Vegas where it was just the two of us. Any other time we went, it was always someone else with either her uncle and aunt or other people that were in her harem that would come along, or it would be multiple in-laws and such. So we only ever vacationed once or twice where it was just us. And she would tell me how boring it was to be on vacation with just me. And you think that somebody that would actually love you for who you are and whatever else wouldn't say some horrible thing like that to you, but she did, because she just loved the fact that I was an ATM and I would stay no matter what. So she felt she could say whatever she wanted to me and I would just take it. And I did for a very long time. March 17th, 2017 was a great day for me. The day I threw everything in the back of my car and I basically had to say goodbye to my dog, which was really difficult. And unfortunately for him, the last 6 months of his life, he was stuck living with her and everyone else, and his health was degrading very badly. I did have to ultimately swoop in at the last moment and make the decision to put him down because he wasn't doing good health-wise, and I had to do that. So the last day that I had my dog Otis, I brought him around, showed him some things, gave him a really good afternoon, and then put him to sleep. It was horrible. That's how far I had to take it to break free from this relationship. There was an actual night that I slept in my car because I needed to see how far I was willing to take it to leave this relationship. And I did. I actually slept in my car in the parking ramp at the airport that night because I had to go back to work the next day anyways. Yeah, so that's what I did. I went to the extremes to figure out that I needed to be away from that situation. And what I didn't start figuring out is why I needed to be away from that situation. So that's why the pattern repeated itself.
Did you have family members tell you you got to leave this relationship? Did you have people harping on you and things like that, like early in the beginning? Because I know sometimes when people tell you you got to do this or you got to do that, then you want to dig in your heels and like, no, I'm going to prove to you that this is going to work.
Oh yeah, it was said. It was said throughout the whole relationship that I should go, I should leave, and what I would never really tell anybody is how trapped I felt and how I felt that I didn't have a way out. What she would always say is that if I leave, my niece and nephew are going to be taken by Child Protective Services and it's going to be all my fault. And I used to believe that crap because I wasn't strong enough to believe anything different. She knew how to manipulate me and use the goodness in my heart against me because I didn't want to see my niece and nephew have to go through the foster care system and all that kind of stuff. When in hindsight, it probably would have actually been better for them to be taken from the chaos and given a better chance to succeed in life. I mean, so far, my nephew is doing really well on his own, and he's largely been able to distance himself from that past, which is great. My niece is still living with her parents. Luckily, she's no longer living with auntie and the other part of the harem. So she lives directly with just her parents. So she's getting a chance to separate from some of that earlier than my nephew did.
Was the whole family dysfunctional?
Oh, absolutely.
It just that's what it seems like.
I mean, her uncle, super cool dude. And I still talk to him weekly. I enjoy talking with him. And that's probably the best part of the relationship that I was able to keep outside of my niece and nephew. He's pretty good. He's pretty normal. Everyone else, not so much. So growing up, or basically I say it, growing up in the relationship, I mean, my mother-in-law lived with us the whole time, my sister-in-law, and then when she got married and then had kids, and then more people started showing up. At one point, I think we had like 9 people living with us, and there was always something going on. It was just the definition of insanity. You can't get anywhere in life when that's how you live.
Right. I don't know how those families that like everyone and the grandkids, everyone all lives in the same tiny house, but somehow they make it work.
Right. Well, I think there's a better sense of community or bond within those situations than there was in the situation that I was in, because there was one clear ringleader and everyone else was there to do what she said. So people can coexist in larger groups when there isn't one ringleader holding everyone to task and saying, if you don't do this, and laying out in a sense what the consequences will be, or what'll happen if you don't do it. So sometimes it's just easier to do the thing you don't want to do than deal with the consequences of the thing.
I know after we did this episode, I actually did a couple more episodes because I was like getting irritated, but I ended up taking those off Spotify just because I listened to them again, and they're kind of hard to follow. But I was trying to find out, well, is an empath any better than like a narcissist, or are we all just codependent? And that's the issue, is we just don't know who we are, and that's the problem. But now I am seeing that narcissist people, yes, they are real. There really are evil people in the world, and I just didn't want to believe it. But now that I'm opening my eyes more and seeing it, and it's just horrifying what people will do to each other and enjoy doing those things.
Absolutely. It's the balance of the universe. It's the root of everything. It's good versus evil. And evil can always be squashed by the greater good when the greater good comes together. The issue is when the evil has the force that they have and you're outnumbered, it takes far longer to defeat the evil. It's yin and yang. For every narcissist, there's an empath. And that's just how it goes. Balance in the world. Figuring out how to navigate that balance is really the key to success. That's at least what I'm learning right now, is to be able to balance. I'm doing so many more things in life right now that I never thought I would ever do. And I'm becoming more successful with the things I'm doing because I've learned how to balance within my own life.
Sounds good. You've done a lot of growing up. So yeah, it was a horrible experience, but I know we all go through horrible experiences, and that's the only way we're going to learn valuable life lessons.
You're absolutely right.
Sucks that yours took 20 years to learn.
I mean, after year 10, honestly, I think it took me till year 5 for the first time I tried to divorce her and have that conversation. And she loved bombed me so hard that I'm just like, okay, whatever, I guess I'll stay. And one of the times she tried to commit suicide, quote unquote. And I say that because she just grabbed a random bottle of vitamins that were water soluble. There's the key phrase, water soluble. And I know that now because of my education. And she shoved them all down her throat like she was trying to commit suicide because I was leaving her. And how dare I do this? It's my fault that she's going to be dead. And quite honestly, with as mad as I was at the moment, I wouldn't have cared. And it's horrible to say that, to be at that level with a human where you don't care if they live or die. And that's on the human who created the situation. That's not on me. It's reactionary. If she wanted to shove a bunch of pills down her throat, she was doing me a favor. It's a disgusting thing to say, I will admit it. It's just the truth. She was doing me a favor. It would have saved me a lot of headache. And the time that she shoved the pills down her throat was far before the time that I passed away for the temporary bit of time. So some of that stuff may have not happened, or I may have been strong enough earlier to just walk away. And that would have been the better option. A lot of the things that happened in the relationship are on me, and I have to take accountability for the fact that I chose not to leave when I could have left. Yes, I have myself convinced in a way that I was trapped and these things happened. And if I did this, this would have happened, those sort of things. Looking back on it now, I got to a point in 2017 where I just didn't care anymore. It's like, you know what? Why am I allowing myself to be so miserable and unhappy and watching myself fundamentally be destroyed as a person to take care of other people? I'm like, I'm no good to anybody dead. I was there once and I was headed back down that road again before I left. I didn't want to wind up down that road a second time. I was given a second chance by the higher power for a reason. And I'm taking that opportunity and sharing my stories about my weight loss, about how I'm changing my life, about my mental health issues, about my bad marriage. I'm sharing all those stories now with the goal that it'll help people. I know that my weight loss journey has helped a few people. I get comments all the time on that. And it's an honor, honestly, to have people tell me that I've inspired them to do better things in their life. And it's like, there's no greater honor than that. That's a bucket list win for me. So sharing the things that I've gone through in greater detail and how I've been able to get past them is the stories that I believe I'm here still to share.
Have you found forgiveness at all, or do you still hold a grudge?
I forgave her years ago. I actually randomly one day, it was like 2018, and it was shortly after Dad passed. I texted her and I'm like, I forgive you. I'm not going to harbor any ill will towards you. And that was actually a lesson I learned when our stepdad passed, because I harbored ill will towards that man till after he passed away. And the message that I sent that he never got to hear because he had already passed by the time it was sent, there was some regret in there, because he did shape my life in a way. And he was the guy that stepped up and said, hey, your dad isn't doing it. I'm going to give it a shot. It just sucked that he was mentally unstable and I didn't recognize what that meant and what that would do and how he would react to us. So obviously some of that is a factor that played into later years in my life. And up until I sent that text message, I harbored a lot of resentment towards that man. And
that man was terrified the moment he died. He was so terrified. I mean, I just happened to be the one right next to him, and he's staring at me with these big eyes and just terrified. So whatever happened to him, and I guess that's judgment. But he must have known that something was wrong with his life. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so afraid to die.
Absolutely. In the inverse, when our dad passed away, he went pretty peacefully, from what I understand.
Yeah,
He
I wasn't
atoned.
there for him. I mean, I wasn't going to fly down to Texas. I never really had a relationship with him. Not to say that I wasn't sad, but,
Right.
and it sounds horrible to say, it doesn't really have a big impact on my life. So,
And I understand that. And for the last couple of years of his life, we spoke on the phone regularly, once to twice a week, sometimes even 3 times a week. We would have a conversation, and he hid how ill he actually was from me, and I think from Jules as well. I don't think he ever really told us how sick he was. And he knew that when he moved to Texas, that was pretty much going to be it. He wasn't going to see us anymore, because we were never in a position that we were able to get to Texas to see him. That's a distance to go. I know that Uncle Dave and Ty went down, and Ty was the one to call and tell me about his last few moments and what happened. And one thing I can say for Pops is, as horrible of a life as he lived and as shitty of a human as he was at times, he spent the last 5 years of his life atoning for his bad behavior as best he could. He had a lot of apologies. We had some really, really hard conversations, like the time when I was probably 2 or 3 years old and we're still living on College Avenue. And for some reason, he thought it'd be just the funniest thing in the world to kick me while I'm standing at the top of the steps and watch me fall down them. He's like, there was no reason for me to do that. It was the dumbest thing I could have ever done. And he's like, I'm really sorry I did that. And it's things like that. I mean, I didn't remember it. I was 2, 3 years old. We were living on College Avenue. Like, I wasn't even in school yet. I'm barely forming memories. And for him to bring that up out of nowhere and just apologize and talk about what was going on in his head at the time. And he did that with a lot of people. So for him, going on to the other side was a lot more peaceful of a transition than it sounds like it was for our stepdad.
yeah, I guess I was just so sucked into my own chaotic life at that time. I didn't have time in the end for our dad. I'm working second shift, and that takes a lot of time away from life in general, and just busy working all the time, because that's what I was taught by our parents. Is that's what you do, is you go to work. You ignore your family, but you go to work and make sure that there's money. But that's, I don't know, I guess that's the life lesson that I took away from growing up, is you have to work no matter what. You have to work. If you're sick, you still go to work. You go to work. You go to work.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah, that was drilled into us from grandpa through mom and through her side of the family. Like, that was a thing.
I mean, it's good to have a good work ethic, but it's not everything. I mean, now I'm learning that human connection and human relationships are what matter, human feelings. And I've done plenty of screwing up with my own kids. And, well, whatever the future brings, it brings. It is what it is. Life's all about learning. It's one lifelong lesson. And that's what I've been learning through all these things I've been listening to. It's one big lesson, and you can either take the lesson and enjoy your life, or you can fight the lesson and keep repeating it over and over.
That's exactly it. Like, we come up to points where we've learned things, or we should have learned things, and life tests us. Some people never pass that test, and that's where they stop in life, is the fact that they're never able to get past that test.
Because they don't want to step out of the comfort zone. That's the problem. Everyone's afraid to step outside and try something different and be truly unique, not unique in the way that everyone else has blue hair or purple hair or whatever the new trend is. It's like, no, we need actual unique people in the world.
Oh yeah, I'm an individualist. I live my life based on that theory. I've personally opted out of the culture that exists in this country. I find it to be decaying, depressive, and on top of it, there's no value in American culture at this point. People are willing to say the most disgusting things to defend people that steal from them, and they have no clue they're even doing it. I'm not about to deal with that. I have no time for that distraction in my life. Our culture is nothing more than a distraction for someone else's profit. I refuse to be a part of that system. I'm building my own self-culture. That's what Accountability Nation is also about, is building my own self-culture, holding myself accountable for my actions. If I can do that, and when I do that, that helps change the trajectory of culture. Lead by example. And that's how I roll. Lead by example, as opposed to saying, hey, I could do this, or you need to do this. I never tell anybody what they need to do, because quite honestly, it's not for me to decide. What's for me to decide is what I need to do. That I can tell you.
Right. It's
I
like
can't tell
maybe
you what you need to
offer
do.
another perspective, but I can't tell you what you should do.
I can offer you advice based on experiences I've had, most likely, because I've had a lot of life experiences now, and I can tell you a lot of things that have happened because of those life experiences. I tell those stories all the time on Twitter. That's part of why I use my platform the way I do, so people have another perspective. I'm good with that. I've lived a hard life that I don't want to see other people have to live if they can avoid it. If my information helps them get to that point, I've done well for myself.
So that's your goal for Accountability Nation, is just make other people aware of it?
Yeah, that's really all it is. It's building a better self-culture for myself and sharing those experiences and offering people a different perspective on life. I'm never going to tell anybody they need to do what I do. I don't find that to be accurate. Only you know what's best for you. If that is using drugs and strung out and riding the light rail through the Twin Cities for your whole life, that's, I guess, what's good for you. It's not good for me, and I refuse to live that lifestyle. I'm not going to tell you to do anything different, though, because that's what you want to do in your life. So go ahead and do that.
But that's not our culture. Our culture is busy criticizing and judging everyone else, but not looking at ourselves.
Yeah, that's why I'm out of that culture, because I largely could care less. It's a distraction to me. It's a distraction to any other person who feels they need to judge others for the way they live. That's the most hypocritical thing.
I still do that, but doing it is bad enough, but I'm trying to change the way that I talk about other people. And
it's a hard thing to do.
Because I don't want to be an easy person inside. I want to be a genuine, decent person, and genuine, decent people don't talk about other people behind their back or anything like that. So right. I just stay out of drama. When I'm at work, I do my best to stay out of drama, stay out of the conversations, just do my job. And that's about it.
I'm the same way. I still work for a company. Right now, my goal is to not be doing that in a year, or to be doing it on a very minimal basis, just because I love what I do, and I still want to be able to do it here and there. Reality is, though, I don't get myself wrapped up in all that nonsense, because it brings no value to my life. To me, time is an investment. The better you invest your time into things, the better the outcome can potentially be for you. And that's a valuable life lesson that I've had to learn recently. It's also helped me figure out how to get out of my own way, in a sense. I've always been my worst enemy in a lot of situations. My brain stops me from a lot of things. I figured out how to flip that switch off. And I've also figured out how to identify other issues that I see in my own personal life, so I can work on resolving them. For the first 46 years of my life, I really haven't lived to my true potential. In year 47, as it comes up in November, my goal is to get closer to living that better lifestyle that I seek. My goal is to be independent financially and work for myself. I'm getting there. I'm laying the foundation right now. There's some projects that I'm working on behind the scenes that I'm not really at liberty to speak about just yet because they're still in beta. So once they get closer to the time, some teasers will come out. I'm dropping a teaser here and there on my Accountability Nation page about some of the stuff I am working on. So stay tuned on there. In a few months, you're gonna see the full scope of what I've invested blood, sweat, and tears and multiple hours of my life into on a gamble that this will be something that'll help pave my future.
That's cool. And that is another teaser for the audience. Roddy J hangs out with musicians and stuff like that. So there's that teaser in there. He's met some
I haven't even gotten
people
to those teasers yet.
Oh, geez. I'm jumping the gun here.
Oh no, there's multiple projects. I don't even think I've told you the full scope of what it is I'm working on with Roddy J Media Productions. There is multiple projects across multiple different industries that are in the planning phase right now. One of them is actually being built. I've been working more hours building media for a project than I'm actually spending working my job right now. So to take time like this is definitely still something I personally need to do. So it's nice to get a break and do these things as well, because I am getting more podcast offers as well. I've got 4 or 5 podcasts that people have reached out and said, hey, I'd really like to have you come on my show. And I'm like, well, absolutely. I love doing these. It's a good practice run for me. It helps me build my speaking skills and my stage presence, because that is a future project I've been working on as well. I've revived my Accountability Nation YouTube channel. Slowly, it's coming back online. I'm dropping content at least once a week. The goal is to work into a nightly vlog video where I talk about what I did in my day and what I learned from that day. So people are going to get more of a live journal coming up in the next few weeks to month. Once this other project starts to slow down and I've built up a decent amount of media for it.
It'll make it nice once there's a book deal in the process, because you'll have all this stuff already. I know social media, being involved in social media, this podcast, the thing, what we're doing right now, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort, more than people realize. It's more than just clicking a button and having a conversation. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes on. And
that's what Roddy J Media does.
Behind the scenes stuff.
Oh yeah, that's what Roddy J Media does. I'm the behind the scenes guy. I'm the guy that makes videos and podcast intros, and I photograph bands on stage and catch videos. I've been able to upgrade my equipment just a little bit. So, I mean, I'm on a gum and duct tape budget. I have no money to play with. I'm using what I have available to me as I build this company from scratch. It's a lot to take on, and quite honestly, if I were to ever lose my cell phone, my whole business would go under in a matter of that switch.
Oh no, everything you need to have like a backup somewhere.
Yeah, I'm working on that. My computer is an issue still. I've got a driver issue that needs to be repaired, and I'm going to get that done so I can back everything that's up on my phone on the computer, because I've got hours and hours of work invested into stuff that if I were to lose it, to have to rebuild it would be such a pain.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that we're at an hour now, so I think that's pretty good for this live stream. So I'm
absolutely
gonna push this end button here. All right, bye. Do you want to say any final words?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at earbuds_music. I'm on TikTok. You follow me there under Accountability Nation. I do have an Instagram. I barely use it because, let's be honest, the only thing that ever reaches out is people trying to steal my money or trying to get me to buy pictures of them that I really don't want anyways. So I don't really use Instagram much. It's out there. So yeah, there's that.
Okay. All right, everyone. Have a good day, and we'll see you again for the next episode. Bye.
Bye.